Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and tackle a massive, honestly terrifying business dilemma that plagues modern organizations today. Welcome, everyone. We're going to be exploring a total paradigm shift, something that has basically become a vital survival tactic in today's utterly ruthless market. Look, we aren't just talking about basic market research here. We're unpacking how advanced consumer testing has evolved into the absolute ultimate strategic edge for product development. If you've ever wanted to know how market leaders consistently win, and more importantly, how they avoid catastrophic losses, you are in the exact right place. So let's kick things off with $1 million question. Well, sometimes $1 billion question. Why do well-funded products fail? Seriously, take a second and think about it. Why do some products just take off and achieve outstanding market success, while others completely crash and burn, even when they have massive financial backing? I mean, think about the sheer waste. Millions of dollars poured into development, marketing, distribution, only to be met with total, deafening silence from consumers. How does an entire organization miss the mark so incredibly badly? It's a paradox that literally keeps executives awake at night, and it's brought down otherwise stellar companies.
To solve this mystery, here's our roadmap for the explainer today. 1. The product failure paradox. 2. The shift to evidence. 3. The modern testing toolkit. 4. From data to decisions. And 5. Crucial moments to test.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the product failure paradox. Let's uncover the hidden trap in new product development.
Here is the wild part. The crucial takeaway is that the product itself is rarely the actual problem. When a massive launch totally flops, it's so easy, instinctual really, for leadership to point fingers at the engineering team or second-guess the feature set or just aggressively slash the price. But the data tells a completely different story. The fatal flaw is almost always a lack of profound, genuine insight into the target audience. It is absolutely incredible how often a product works flawlessly in an isolated lab, passes every internal quality check with flying colors, but then absolutely tanks in the market. Why? Because the creators simply didn't understand how it fit or, didn't fit into the actual, messy, everyday lives of their consumers.
To bridge that massive gap, well-designed testing has to answer a very specific set of core questions. First, does the product have real market potential? And by that I mean, is there an actual appetite for this out in the world, or is it just a bunch of internal hype? Second, how will the target audience actually perceive it? Because there is a humongous gap between lab testing and real-world perception. You absolutely have to know what people think the very second they hold it in their hands. Third, what specific elements must be improved to increase its appeal before you lock in manufacturing? And crucially, how does it perform head-to-head against your competitors? Getting the answers to these fundamental questions early on prevents millions in wasted investments and builds a rock-solid foundation for real, undeniable market traction.
Moving right along to Section 2, the shift to evidence. Let's look at how mature organizations are completely rewiring their approach to research.
Now, it is literally night and day when you look at the old way of doing business versus a new way. On one side, we've got assumptions and intuition, relying on this sort of crystal ball method of guessing what consumers want, based entirely on executive gut feelings or insular boardroom brainstorming sessions. Honestly, it's wildly dangerous today. On the flip side, we have evidence-based decisions driven entirely by hard objective data. Today's market leaders have realized that winging it on intuition is just way too risky. They are aggressively shifting toward a model where every single major product decision demands concrete, irrefutable evidence before they even think about moving forward.
So, what do we actually mean by consumer testing in this modern context? Well, it's no longer just a one-off, check-the-box, tactical research activity. It is a highly critical component of strategic product management, and it's heavily aligned with user experience. The absolute key takeaway here is that it's an ongoing, continuous part of the product development lifecycle. You don't just run a single focus group at the very end to make yourselves feel better. You use data to continuously validate concepts and relentlessly minimize risk at every single stage of the journey.
Okay, Section 3, the modern testing toolkit. Let's see how all this theory builds into an actionable set of tools you can actually use.
Modern testing goes way, way beyond simple taste tests or those basic online surveys we've all seen. You've got a highly specialized toolkit at your disposal now. First up, there's in-home or in-use testing. This is incredibly powerful because it captures real consumer behavior in their natural environments. Seeing how someone actually uses a blender in their own cluttered kitchen delivers far more reliable insights than watching them use it in a sterile, bright testing facility, right? Then you've got comparative testing, often done blind, to evaluate your performance directly against competitors. That tells you exactly where you win and where you lose.
Concept testing is used way early on to assess names, packaging, and messaging. Think about testing a label design before you pay for a massive, unchangeable print run. And finally, experience testing, which analyzes the broader customer journey and how they holistically interact with the whole brand. Choosing the precise method from this toolkit is what directly dictates the quality of your executive decisions.
That brings us perfectly to Section 4, from data to decisions, because having data is great, but misusing it, that's a fatal error. And here is a massive, massive organizational trap we need to talk about. The most common mistake out there right now? It's actually not a lack of research. Believe me, companies today are absolutely drowning in more data than ever before. The true mistake is the misuse of those insights. Collecting data without linking it to specific, predefined business decisions just leads to fragmented, confusing directions. It's essentially data hoarding. Teams are out there collecting numbers just to say they have them, which results in totally wasted potential and zero strategic clarity. Look, be warned, data without a strategic job to do is really just expensive overhead.
So how do we fix this? You need a disciplined 5-step value chain to ensure those raw numbers actually transform into decisive business actions. It starts with step 1, defining precise objectives. You have to know exactly what problem you're trying to solve before you start. Step 2 is selecting the right methodology from that toolkit we just talked about. Step 3 is executing and meticulously overseeing the quality of the research. Now that's the setup, but steps 4 and 5, that is where the magic actually happens. Step 4 requires interpreting those findings within a strategic business framework. And finally, step 5, translating those insights into actionable, definitive business decisions. Having a strong advisory partner really helps you deliberately navigate this exact sequence, ensuring the data actually drives your business forward instead of just sitting in a spreadsheet.
When you execute this correctly, the payoff is absolutely huge. It pulls testing out of this siloed research function and directly supports your overarching marketing and sales strategy. You're going to achieve much higher success rates for your product launches. You secure way tighter alignment with what the customer actually needs, not just what your team thinks they need. You'll see tangible increases in conversion and overall sales performance. And, perhaps most importantly for your bottom line, you drastically reduce the astronomical cost associated with poor decision-making, manufacturing overruns, and ultimately totally failed market launches.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, crucial moments to test. Let's pinpoint exactly when you need to pull the trigger on these methods.
Because timing is literally everything. Deploying consumer testing guarantees faster, more accurate decisions, for sure, but you have to deploy it at the right high-stakes moments. Obviously, before launching something completely new, when you need to validate core concepts, but also during brand or product repositioning. Evidence is vital there. If you're suddenly facing declining sales on a legacy product, testing helps immediately pinpoint the usability or perception barriers that are causing that drop. It's equally essential when you're venturing into new, unfamiliar markets, or honestly, just while trying to continuously optimize an existing portfolio so you can rigorously maintain your competitive edge.
Testing is no longer a cost. It becomes an investment in decision accuracy. I absolutely love this perspective. This fundamental paradigm shift completely redefines how we should view consumer research in modern business. When you look at it this way, skipping testing isn't saving your company money. Not at all. By cutting that corner, you are actively choosing to fly blind, which drastically increases your risk of a very public and very expensive failure.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative question. Think deeply about your current product strategy right now. Will your next major product launch be based on solid, undeniable evidence, or are you just relying on intuition? Are you truly leveraging consumer insights to guarantee your success in the market, or are you essentially just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best? Taking the time to build a strategy based on the data-driven principles we explored today is exactly what separates the untouchable market leaders from everyone else. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I highly encourage you to start turning your raw data into decisive action.